I'm asked often why I chose to play football at Michigan. The short answer is because they gave me a shot. And every day since I set foot in Ann Arbor, I have been proud to be a part of this brotherhood. It feels like I speak for many when I say Michigan ever winning another championship on the national stage began to feel unattainable. One, because the Southeastern Conference has been the dominant force in this sport for more than a decade. Two, the Buckeyes proved to be the gold standard in our own conference for more than a decade. And then the 2024 season happened. Now I want to speak directly to the players, the coaches, and staff members inside of Schembechler Hall, many of whom I played with and played for. This is your achievement. You've made a lot of people proud along the way, but you did this. You just won the first national championship in the history of Michigan football. Why do I say that? Because every title up to this point was claimed or it was awarded by the media, by the coaches. Not this time. This was won. People asked all season, who has Michigan beaten? The answer is everyone. You beat your rival. You won your conference. You went toe-to-toe with the greatest coach in college football history, Nick Saban, and you came out on top. Then you finished by holding the most prolific offense in the country to 13 points. Jim Harbaugh, this championship is on you, all because when things got tough in 2020, you pointed at yourself and said, this isn't good enough. We haven't been good enough, but we will be. Now, whatever happens to this group in the days and weeks to come, just know we all can't wait to see what y'all accomplish next. Some of you will play professionally. Some will start businesses and become husbands and fathers. Whatever you do, use this moment as a stepping stone for further achievement in life, and take pride in the fact that you men in that locker room are now responsible for the greatest season in the history of Michigan football. Go Blue.
That's real.
Yeah, Dave.
That's real.
I believe that.
That's real. No,
a lot of us
that's
got
from the heart.
close.
You can't make that stuff up.
We're all standing on the shoulders of who came before us.
For
right?
sure.
But still.
And I do want to make sure, too, to tell the Washington fans out there, the players and everybody associated with the Huskies program, be upset. Lay down, bleed a while. It's tough. You don't know when you're going to get back to this stage. You don't know if you're ever going to get back to this stage. But those young men have nothing to be ashamed of. Michael Penix Jr. did not have his best game last night, but he has nothing to be ashamed of. What they accomplished, getting to where they got to have a chance to elevate Washington to another national championship, the first one since 1991, while you didn't win it, and you wanted to win it. You don't play this game to lose. You don't put in all this work to finish second, and I get that, especially with the veterans they had on this team, with the way they played all year. But the brand of Washington and what Kalen DeBoer, showing you that not only can Washington get there, but they can now win a game when they got there. This isn't when Washington went to the playoff earlier and Bama just poom-pah slammed them for 4 quarters and laughed their way through it. This was a dogfight. And I think it showed you the type of team and the type of culture and the type of young men that Kalen DeBoer is cultivating, that early, when it looked like it was going to snowball, and Michigan was lining up and ramming it down your throat. Donovan Edwards was making one guy miss, then looked like the fastest person on the planet. You were able to regroup, and you stayed in the fight, and especially that Washington defense. Hats off to you guys. I know at the end it kind of unraveled a little bit there in the last 2 possessions, but Washington's defense kept them in that game. I think they showed a ton of intestinal fortitude, and Washington is not done. Kalen DeBoer is not done. It's only just beginning, and I'm excited to see where they go from here. So I want to make sure that we let the Washington fans know out there. Be upset. Like I said, lay down, bleed a while, but you have nothing. You should have nothing but pride this morning when you look at the way that those guys went out there and they competed, the way they competed all year. And now we go to the Big Ten. We get to see these 2 teams in the same conference now.
Washington will benefit greatly from this.
Oh, without a doubt. And you got Oregon coming in, and USC and UCLA. It's a new era of college football, but I'm happy with the way that it ended, and I think it was fun to not see a team from the SEC in the national championship. Like I said, that's why I called it zero sugar. Sometimes it's better to mix it up. And now we go to the 12 team, so who the hell knows, Blaine?
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad, in my opinion, the best teams made it. I mean, and when you look at this game, especially at the end, there's 2 sides to every football game, right? You'll see guys dancing in confetti, and you give Michigan all their flowers. They deserved it. There's also guys on the sidelines who are broken, who watch that confetti come down, especially younger classmen. All right, and that's something you build. going into the next year, and that's what you can build leadership on. But one thing I kind of think of when it comes to Michigan, I think of Michie Walker, who died of cancer in December in 2022. You know, how much he meant not only to this football team, not only for the staff, but just the Michigan fans, and how much just football in general means to so many people, and how it can bring so many guys together. And it's just a beautiful story, and you go look for it. But, man, I know y'all did that for them. You did it for fans. But I know for damn sure y'all did it for Michie Walker, too.
And it was good to see his name trending yesterday, too.
Yeah.
You know, another thing on your point with talking about no SEC team in the championship. So it's interesting. So the Big Ten won the first and the last college football playoff. And then the SEC and Clemson pretty much won everything in the middle. And what I said was, yes, it was good for college football. I agreed with your point the other day. It was good for college football. For the SEC, not just to not have a team in the championship, but for the teams that were in it to deserve to be there, and both of them weren't SEC teams. But it's also been good for college football, for the SEC to be as dominant as they have been, because Michigan had to build their program this way. You know, Washington had to go spend the amount of money. And one thing with Jim Harbaugh is it's really fun to see not only a national championship team, not only a perfect season, 15-0, but to do it in this way, to do it in a way that I think garnered a lot of respect from people around the country, especially people in the South, especially Southeastern Conference fans, when they look at that game and they watch them line up against Alabama, not only in the front seven on defense, but what they did up front and in the run game on offense, to say, wow, those boys are really about the physicality on both sides of the football. And that's not anything new. That's how Michigan played when I was there, and that's how Michigan played when Jim Harbaugh was under Bo Schembechler. There's a reason he wanted to bring back that mentality. Who knows what the future holds, man? I don't know if he's going to be an NFL coach. I don't know if he decides to remain in Ann Arbor, but either way, this was a big one for that program.
Yeah, and look, we're going to talk about Jim Harbaugh. Will he return? J.J. McCarthy, will he return? And all that jazz. You know, David, when you look at that game and the season from Michigan, we always talk about balanced teams, complete teams. I think Michigan was a complete team. You know, what a lot of the bugaboos of teams that have run into the Alabamas and the Georgias have been the physicality up front. But when you've had those few teams that could match the physicality up front, and it was even somewhat, on the outside was where Georgia and Alabama and these teams would take advantage of you because they were complete teams. Michigan was a complete team. When they weren't able to get to Alabama the other night, and there was one-on-one man coverage on the outside, Michigan won those battles. You wouldn't be able to win the physical, up front, in the trenches battle, and then the outside skill position battles, right, in the past against an Alabama or something like that, until we saw this Michigan team be able to do it, right? And I think Washington was close to a complete team. Michigan was more of a complete team, though. And when it came down to it, Michigan's strong hand was defense, Washington's strong hand was offense, and one of them showed up and balled out in that game. And there were some flashes for Penix Jr. in the offense, but I wasn't surprised by either game plan. I thought both game plans were great going into it, to be honest with you. I thought the coaches put the players in a position to win the game. The difference was Washington didn't take advantage of mistakes. The few times they got it from Michigan, in a game that comes down to 3 to 5 plays, you have to do that. And every time Washington would garner some momentum or start to get something going, you would have a pre-snap penalty, you would have a holding call on a big play. They would do something that would push them back. And every time they got to the edge of making this thing really weird with Michigan, getting it back to one score, Michigan was able to answer. And it wasn't just in the form of 3 turnovers. It was in the form of tackling in space. It was in the form of being able to get Michael Penix Jr., who's a jump shooter at quarterback, off of his spot. It was a bunch of little things that added up to big things. And I always say most teams lose games. They don't win them. I think this was a little bit of both. So you give a ton of credit to Michigan. It was a hell of a season. Hey, YouTube, hope you enjoyed the live stream of the National Championship game. Apparently you did. It was a huge success. We thank you guys. If you haven't already or you just found out about us, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on, and call in. We have live calls and a live chat. It's the Booster Club. It's an exclusive club, but I think you're cool enough to join.